Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see all of you all. My name is Teresa Sanko, and I'm the database manager for PK-12 data collection, student staff data collection. And I am here to discuss the student database changes for 21-22. Can you believe that? 21-22. Wow. So moving right along. What we're going to be talking about, I share these each year, so I won't read them. I'll just let you go and look at them. The statutory references for data collection. Then we're going to talk about the actual updates, looking at the data elements and the impacted edits, and then looking at the formats, the edit, other edit and business rules not actually associated with a data element change, and the appendices, changes for the appendices. A few database reporting reminders, and also some database manual resources. So there you have it, Rule 6A-1.0014, Florida Administrative Code, and Section 1008.385, Florida statutes that mandates our authority to collect the data from school districts. And of course, you know, we file reports with the federal government, state on your behalf for the most part. So this gives us the authority to collect that data from you. So you could follow up on those and read if you need to a little bit more. So we're going to get right into the nitty gritty of the changes because I know you just can't stand it. So here we go. We're going to talk about the data elements, and I don't think it's as devastating as all of these changes may look. If you've looked at the presentation online, if it's there, it's not as devastating as it looks. Some of it is house cleaning, some of it is a tweak here and there. And for the most part, the changes are not like major changes as we've had in the past. So I think you'll be pleased. Advanced International Certificate. This is not something that collected at the state level, but I think it's something that you put on transcripts maybe, but anyway, the previously Advanced International Certificate Program, which is now Advanced International Certificate of Education curriculum. And so the definition was updated to align with that. And room identification fish number. You'll see the actual strike throughs in that document that'll help you in making sure you update your SIS system and documentation. So that database manual update page has the student and staff changes all marked up so you can see that. Moving on, the diploma type. Of course, you know, the governor had to institute the WCO code again this year for waiving assessments. So the WCO code for a diploma code and the W60 code for adults were reinstated for 2021. So in the 21-22 documentation, of course, we had to take that out. So this is basically what that is. And you can see the edits that are impacted there on the student end of year status business rules, numbers 9, 32, and 3C. So this is something you won't see in 21-22, and rightly so. District number current enrollment. And the definition was updated on this data element. It's been this way for years, but Code 99 in Appendix C states, other than a Florida school. Long time ago, the word public was in there, and this really was supposed to capture not a Florida school, not a Florida non-public school, but a school that's not in the state of Florida. So the word public was removed from that language long time ago, but some of the data elements didn't get updated because if you don't connect the dots, and there's always connecting the dots in database documentation from a data element to an edit to it. So some things get overlooked, and this is actually catching up. We catch up when we get a chance to look at stuff. So we cleaned that up and made the definition just as it is in Appendix C on the district number current enrollment. And it didn't impact any edits or anything like that. It was just the verbiage for Code 99 on the district number current enrollment field. District number reporting district. Now this had a lot of changes because the data element name was changed from reporting district to district number where incident occurred to align with the school number where incident occurred. So it's basically the same thing of what you've always been reporting, we just named it correctly, okay? So instead of district number reporting districts, it's district number where the incident actually occurred. So that was all over the assessor format, edits. So of course, the whole edit just got put in there, and you see where that terminology was updated for district number reporting district to district number where incident occurred. We updated the definition again here for 99 to align with what's in Appendix C. And this data element was also added to the student discipline format. The student discipline form already had school number where incident occurred. So it just made sense that we should also collect the district number, because all the time the district number where the incident occurred is not the district that's reporting it, correct? So assessor office thought it was necessary that we add this data element to the student discipline format as well. And so there's a new edit on student discipline. Of course, you know, whenever we add a data element to anything, that data element gets its very own business rule on that particular format. District number where credit earned. Now this one is different because it's the student transcript information format in Survey 5. So that 99 has a different definition only for this format, because we're trying to capture the post-secondary schools and non-public schools on the transcript. It's been that way forever, and nothing changed. I'm just clarifying why it is still different than what is in Appendix C. You follow? Okay. Next. District number where discipline. So a lot of these district numbers, district number 99 code, we had to clean it up. And this is another one of those instances where we align the definition to follow what's in Appendix C. This particular data element is not reported to the state, so there are no edits or anything else impacted other than the definition was updated. Moving on to dropout prevention data element changes. Dropout prevention, juvenile justice outcomes. This is another data element that's not reported to the state. However, because it's one that's used statewide, we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So a code T, code T was added last year to dropout prevention programs. So it was just added to the title of the education services section. And it's no longer required for grades 4 to 12, it's required for grades 1 through 12 now. And of course, there are no edits impacted for this state element because it's not reported to the state. Dropout prevention, juvenile justice placement reasons. This is another one of those data elements that's not reported to the state, but has to be recognized statewide when you're for your purposes. And there was a definition for code I under disciplinary. The note was deleted in reference to code I, and 2 new codes were added, code M and code O. And I'll tell you what those are. I was thinking I would have the internet up here, but that's not necessary. So the new codes M and O are for on my page. This is a mighty big document now. Hold on for me. Should have had them flagged, but I don't. Okay, so the new code M. So code I was changed from alternative placement to alternative to expulsion. And the new codes under educational alternatives, M is for substance abuse and O is for other. So the Dropout Prevention Office wanted to clarify that for you all. Of course, there are no impacted edits because it's not reported to the state. Dropout Prevention Juvenile Justice Programs. This one is, the data element was updated. The definition for this one was updated to correctly reference detention centers and non-adjudicated clarifying language. So, and you can look at that later. What else? The code for definition, the N, code N, the definition was updated. And I think most of y'all have seen those, but if you need for me to actually read it, just let me know. But you have this documentation that was online, so I'm not gonna spend that time reading it if it's okay with you all. Clarified the definition for code Z. That was another update for dropout prevention juvenile justice programs. So dropout prevention length, a prescribed program. For that, the code O, code 000, it was referenced, it was updated. No, that was updated to reference. Too many dropout prevention things here. So code O, bear with me. No, I'm not gonna waste too much time looking for these papers here because I can't find it. But like I say, on the length of prescribed program that was updated to correctly identify the aggregate reporting for code O, and there were no edits impacted because this is just a definition. The code remains the same. Dropout prevention performance-based exit test results. The note for code WGA was updated. In the past, it had alternative assessments. Well, that has been since updated to be in line with everything else that was changed in previous years for alternative assessments to concordant or comparative score. So that was just to make it consistent with all the other languages from concordant to concordant and comparative score. Educational choice, code O for the Family Empowerment Scholarship was added because there are students who can, who are awarded this scholarship but can go to another public school rather than a private school. So just like McKay students can go to another public school, well, for FES, they can do that as well. So code O was added to capture that. And so the edits that were updated on the prior school status format, as you can see, are codes edits 36 and 45. Fund source. The code I was updated a while back to say, we just covered this a few years ago, if not last year, to update code I. The ESE office wants to say students who are and who are not currently identified, but then since they've received a better understanding from the federal office of what they really want, so they have stricken those who are not. Those who are, they don't need those who are not. They just only need to collect those who are not. So code I was updated this year to correctly identify what the federal office is looking for. So you'll see that corrected from last year. Immunization status. Nothing changed here except the definitions for codes W, X, and Y. Most times you've seen fewer than 31 days. Well, that's not what the statutory language says. So the immunization office wanted to make sure that the language in the data element reflected the language in the statute, which says 30 school days rather than fewer than 31 days. There's a difference when you add the term school days. So 30 school days. And that's in codes W, X, and Y. Incident basis religion. Per the CESA rule and all the discussion relating to CESA for harassment or bullying based on religion, well, the Y code has been changed to actually list the different kinds of religions where bullying or harassment may have taken place. So instead of a Y now, you will actually select the actual religion. Atheism, agnosticism, Buddhist, Catholic, whatever the religion is that was the nature of the bullying harassment, you'll identify that. So the Y code is no longer there. You have all these codes, A through M and O through X. And the edits have been updated accordingly, edits 38 and 41 on the CESA format. Incident involvement type. 2 new codes were added to this to identify students that are out of the district, code O, and to also identify if school personnel were involved in the incident. So you have a P to identify school personnel and O for out of district student. And of course, the edit CESA 10 has been updated to reflect that. Next, we have institution, neglected, and delinquent. And a lot of these dropout prevention updates that I'm talking about, there will be a dropout prevention session on Wednesday at 8:30. So if you want to get more information on these updates, they will be discussed there. If you want to learn more about these updates for dropout prevention and neglected and delinquent, all of that will be in that session on Wednesday at 8:30, okay? But for the institution neglected, notes were updated under survey 9 and survey 5. Under survey 9, clarification was given to what is meant by non-residential was removed. It used to be residential or non-residential. Non-residential has been removed from the language. And also, of course, you know, Washington Special hasn't been around for a while, so that was cleaned up to remove that language for Washington Special. The update under survey 5, if you've noticed in the past, it limited the ages to 5 to 17, as did survey 9. But survey 5 should not have a limit on the age. All should be reported. So the 5 through 17 is only for survey 9. Survey 5 should be for everybody, okay? Location of student. Of course, you know, for the pandemic, code I to accommodate the various learning environments that had to take place in schools, you know, virtual, at home, or brick and mortar. So code I was allowed in the 21 2020-21 school year. It is not allowed in the 21-22. So code I and any associated edits have been removed from the documentation. And as you can see, it affected edits 4B on the student course format, edits 4B, 4H, 4I, and 65. Progress level math, this was just house cleaning. Dropout prevention saw a colon and didn't like it, and we removed it. Reading intervention component. Now, this is another one that was updated last year. And after getting data and looking at it, they realized that we don't need a code C under reading intervention component, where it indicates that a student is both in tier 1 and tier 2. We need to know if they're in tier 2, which is code A, or we need to know if they're in tier 3. And so if they're in tier 3, I guess it might be assumed that they are in, tier 2 and tier 3 together, but they don't want the code C anymore. So C has been removed to indicate both tier 2 and tier 3. So we're back to A and B. Either they're in tier 2 or they're in tier 3. And the data supports for the Just Read Florida office supports deleting that code C. School year. As you know, Survey R, assessor monthly reporting is effective in the 21-22 school year. So wording was updated last year to get you familiar with the fact that Survey R will be monthly reporting in 21-22. So we added language to the survey year and survey period code, the next one, to indicate the effective date for Survey R. So this is just removing it because here we are in the effective date come July. So documentation was updated to remove reference to the words effective year. Test score, this is another house cleaning issue because FCAT was in the reference notes and we removed FCAT. Year, this is another one of those that we're preparing you for the monthly assessor reporting. So the words effective was removed from that. And here is your only new data element. How about that? Yeah, it's on the assessor format and it's school personnel incident outcome. And I mentioned to you that for involvement type, personnel may be involved, so that's code P, the new code P. Well, this is to report the outcome for that school person, those schools personnel who may have been involved in incident, and you have new codes. This data element is on the assessor format, and you have codes to indicate whether the school personnel the employee was duty reassigned, or code N, the personnel was found not to be responsible, or P for pending determination, or the employee resigned or retired prior to final determination, or the discipline. Code W, the personnel was found to be not responsible, are responsible, because code N is not responsible. Code W is the employee is found to be responsible, or Z, the not applicable, because it doesn't apply to students. So you have that opt-out code. We're going to cover the formats where updates happen. And these formats, most of it is in the notes section. But as you can see, for the dropout prevention program data, note 4 was updated. It talked about the length of prescribed program, and it clarified the meaning of non-adjudicated students. Took out the word delinquent, took out DJJ, and just focused on the fact that it could be juvenile detention, county jail, or city. So it clarified language there for the length of prescribed program. And then it also clarified the dropout prevention length. It reduced it from 250 to 180 to focus on in-school days. And like I say, for more of this, you can attend the dropout prevention session on Wednesday. And also under note 8, the word at risk was removed from the language. The federal state compensatory, there were a few notes there. In several places, note 1 and 4 and 5, it talked about non-Title I schools, but this should only be referencing Title I schools. So the Bureau of Federal Programs wanted to update that to indicate that these are specifically Title I schools. The assessor format was updated. I'll get to that. In the assessor format, as I mentioned, for some of the data elements where it indicated the monthly assessor reporting, where the note was removed from that and effective was removed from that. So that's basically what that is. And it just talks about this is submitted in surveys 2, 3, 5, and R. Of course, R is not through Northwest as you are doing now for the other formats, but it is monthly. And I'm quite sure you've received documentation or will on how to report that or where to report it. The next format is student assessment. For student assessment, now, you'll now be reporting along with ACE and AB and IP on the student assessment format for survey 5. You'll also now be reporting information on the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test, the ASV. This has always been in appendices I and L, so there's no change there. They've always been listed there, but now you'll be using that information to report on the student assessment format. And you'll find on the student assessment format all of the test score types and things like that that applies to ASB as you will find ACE and IB as listed there before. Student demographic. There again, the information about survey R and being effective in 21-22, that information was updated in notes 7 and 10. And also the age restriction for the student demographic format when you report N and D. That information took away the restriction of the age 5 to 17 for survey 5 and also cleaned up and removed reference to Washington special. The student discipline resultant action. Of course, that also removed the information about, okay. That also removed the information about effective survey R. Remove that language because we are now in that year. And then, of course, you know, as I mentioned earlier, the data element district number where incident occurred was added to the student discipline format and it's item 24. Student end of year status, of course, as I mentioned earlier, codes WCO and W60 are not valid in the 21-22 reporting year. So the notes were updated to remove W60 from that documentation. Now the format edits. Now these edits are updated not based on a change to a data element, which is why it's separate from the other list where I have the data element and to guide you to the actual edit. Where these edits are, some of them are annual updates for qualifying arrival dates and birthday ranges, and others are updated based on, as you will see. So dropout prevention program data. Edit 6, you know, the annual enrollment date program that just rolls over. So we updated that information. On the exceptional student format edits, edit 32 was changed because there are some students in age 5 who may be in pre-K. So if the student is age 5 and in pre-K, then you won't include them in the age 6 to 21 category. But if the student is age 5 and not in pre-K, of course you will include them in the age 65. That's an IDA federal change to include 5-year-olds if they're kindergarten, first grade. So as long as they're not in KG, they should be included in the age 6 to 21 category. A new edit was added. Edit 3D is a state validation edit. And It's checking for certain access codes. There's a reference table that's been added to for the database to hit against to make sure that the course you reported applies to this particular edit. If it's not, then it'll get that state validation stating that the course is not on this table. So you need to look at it and make sure you have the right course number. Prior school status, students' attendance. Of course, we talked about this. We deleted code WCO from edit 1735. And we updated edit 90 to exclude FES as McKay is excluded on the prior school status format in that edit. School environmental safety. I mentioned earlier, we basically had to update just about the majority of the edits because they included the words district number reporting district, which is now district number where incident occurred. We added a new edit 2C to make sure that alcohol and tobacco is not reported as drug related. So that edit was added to make sure that alcohol and tobacco is not reported as drug related. It's totally separate. And like I say, there's assessor. For more information on that, there's a assessor session tomorrow at 9:30 if you want to make that to learn more about the updated assessor rule and other things that might be not actually reported to the database, but to give you an overall update on what's happening in the assessor world. Student assessment, of course, you know, the ASB, the test was added, so the edits were updated to include that test. Student course schedule. There are some new online course providers, and there are some a new virtual instruction provider. Online course provider grade results was added, so a new code was added for you to report that particular online course provider. And the new virtual instruction provider is Graduation Alliance code 320. So those edits were edit 54, as you see there, was updated for the virtual instruction provider. The student demographic format, the birth date, and for migrant status term, it rolls. So those edits 51 and 41 were updated as they are annually to apply the exact range of ages. Also, the qualifying arrival date in edit 38 for migrant, that was updated, and that's an annual update. The student end of year status, of course, you know, edits 3P and 49 were suspended this year because of the statewide assessments were waived. So there was suspension on them for 2021, where that suspension is being removed for 21-22. If it's reinstated, then that suspension will be put back in place. But as we know it, for 21-22, that's not the case. So we'll just have to wait until that time, but hopefully everything will be back to normal and will be whatever that normal is. Appendices. So these are updates to the appendix. Appendix A, W26 was updated to include DJJ students who have to exit the PK-12 program to take the GED. They don't necessarily have to enroll in an adult program, but they still use code W26. And so language was updated for that code to help you to know that if they are withdrawing from the PK-12 program just to take the GED test, then this is the code you would use. Also, of course, WCO was removed because it's no longer valid for 21-22. And the reference to GED was removed from the WGD code because that's the performance-based option, and that's not GED. Appendix B, which is the adult withdrawal attendance codes, W60 for the waived assessments was removed for 21-22 reporting. And as I mentioned, the ASB is already and has been for quite a while already listed in appendices I and L, but this is to bring it to your attention so you can see what is in the appendices so you can report for the student assessment format in Survey 5. Appendix P, language was added to ALC for alcohol and TBC for tobacco to indicate that these are not considered drug-related substances. And as well, updated definitions were made to battery, threat, and weapons. So you can look at that. Appendix CC is just referencing the new edition of the Graduation Alliance for Virtual Instruction Providers, adding code 320. And the grade levels for 308, 309, I think it was extended to K-12. It used to be 6 to 12, but I do believe it was extended to K-12. Make sure. Yes, they were all 6 through 12, and now they're all K through 12 for 308, 309, and 311. And that Appendix DD, eligible courses for weighted FTE. A new appendix was added. Oh no, I'm sorry. Added new senior high adult intensive reading courses 1 through 4. So the other intensive reading course, the regular course, it's since been removed, and 4 intensive reading courses levels 1 through 4 were added to Appendix DD for eligible ELL courses. Appendix GG added code 321 for grade results, the new online course provider, as well the grade levels for 308, 309, and 311 were updated from 6 to 12 to K-12. Appendix HH, this is a new appendix. It doesn't reference any edits or any data elements, particularly for database reporting, but it is in reference to the instructional models, the English language learners instructional models data element. This is this appendix, the ELL office thought would be very helpful to you all. It's in the handbook for ELL, but he wanted it to be more visible. So that's why Appendix HH is here, and it helps you to understand which codes and how to report or how to integrate the codes instructional model with the ELL codes. So, and I think it's self-explanatory when you look at the actual appendix. I'm going into data reporting reminders. Are there any questions on the updates? Pretty well laid out. Okay. So these are just some reporting reminders. We've got a lot of questions about the new edit 2H on the student course format for virtual. At one point in time, grades WF and WP could be reported in survey 4, but the FTE instructions were updated in 2021, and in survey 4, grades WF and WP can no longer be reported. I got a lot of questions on that, so I just thought I would just put it out there so you could, so everybody could see it, just in case there are others who are wondering. Disaster affected students, just like to bring this to your attention each year because we see rollovers often from one year to the next, and we want to let you know this is something that happens within the actual current school year. I think we finally got Gulf oil spill from 2010 out of reporting. That was rolling over, and it was like, we had another Gulf oil spill. So finally, we've gotten that out, and we're still getting a few earthquakes here. But it's for the actual current reporting year, the disaster affected student data element. You don't roll it over. I brought this to your attention last year, the GEFE lunch report compared to the GQUH public school eligibility Title I report. Same data, but one is just focusing on ages 5 to 17, which is why they don't match, and they shouldn't match. The GEFE is for all students. The GQUH is for ages 5 to 17. Student attendance reporting. It's getting better, but the finance office has concerns when it's 85% or lower, when the percentage, the 88% is 85% or lower. So you have the ability to download this report. It's on your reports for request menu, and you can look at that. prior to the close of survey 3, survey 5. This is collected in survey 3 and 5 on the prior school status format, but particularly in survey 5, we want to make sure that you see this data. We try to bring it to your attention as well, but just know that you have the ability to download this report as well. And to be particularly, we've been trying to make sure that the last few weeks prior to the close of survey 5 that we check on this report, because every once in a while, data will get wiped out. The district may have submitted a batch and was trying to update something, and all of a sudden there are no records for student attendance. So we try to make sure we look at that as much as we can to make sure that you have attendance data at the close of the survey. So this is something for you to make a note to make sure that you check on that before the close of survey 5. Of course, there are links. These are links to the database website, survey dates for 21, 22, the database manual updates. As I said, this big document here lists all of the changes that I talked about, and it's marked up in red so you can see the actual change. If that helps you, it helps me. So if that helps you, that's there. The database user manual, a lot of updates will happen there because we had to make sure that we focused on DQ2 for the staff database, since it's no longer reported via the Northwest database. It's strictly DQ2, so there are a lot of updates that need to be done to the user manual. So make sure you check out the user manual updates. And of course, your district liaison can be found in Appendix A under user manual for you to identify who your direct first point of contact is in this office for database issues, questions, and anything else, and we'll try to help you get to the person who can answer your inquiry for you. This is my team. They're all ready and waiting to assist you. We appreciate your questions because they help us to learn too. It's all a learning process. Your questions, because you actually work with the data out there, and that helps us to work with the policy people to make sure that the edits and everything else is the way it should be, and to make sure we get quality data from you, okay? So that's it for me. And no questions. I mean, wow. I'm wow. First time ever.
She's almost got out of here without any questions. Quick question. Survey on behavior comment, but we're not sending it to Northwest.
Yes, correct.
So are we sending it to DQ2? Where is it?
Steve said he'll discuss that in the next session.
Yeah, so you didn't have anywhere to go. The next session is going to be with Mr. Andre Smith, and he's going to send all of those things for you.
That was a good question. Yes, up here, Katie.
So, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So you talked about we talked about the birth of students, FLDOE, FLDOE. We're not going to be sending them. We do not send those students at all. Okay. Since that's their grade currently until we get rejected.
Well, if that's their grade and you can't report it in survey 4,
So we won't send them off that.
it'll reject.
We don't have to worry.
I mean, they have no, according to the FTA general instructions, they have to have a grade, and that's not a grade to be reported. Mm-hmm. Don't be shy. Of course, I'm happy you don't have questions.
But I think we're also supposed to report anybody who's been in a course for more than 14 days.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
We're also supposed to report a student who's been in a course for more than 14 days. So did the FTE office speak to that at all?
Well, if they withdrew, you know, survey 4 is for completions.
Right.
So if they withdrew, that's not a completion.
Right, but aren't they using that information for projections?
That I cannot answer, but I can find an answer for you later.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Or Teresa?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, I appreciate your audience.
That wasn't too bad at all, was it?
No, it was not at all.
We were nice.
Not, they were very nice. Hey, how are you? I'm good.